It's working.
Fantastic. Yeah, so you can click on that link, and the structure for today's workshop is that we will start with, there's a 20-minute video on that link. So if you bring up the first page, I'll share my page anyway, and I can guide you through this process. So I'm just hoping, I think it'll be desktop 2, that this will work. Okay, I've got to have a privacy setting here. I didn't count on that one. Okay, so I can't share the screen. So that's okay, because you all have the link. I've just got a new computer, so it won't share that particular screen. I might be able to drag it to my other screen. Sorry for the muddling around to start with. I'll try another option. This time one.
Ma'am, we'll make you the co-host so you can share your screen as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, ma'am. Now you can share your screen.
Now I should be able to share my screen.
Yeah,
Let's try again. It's asking me for a system preference. That's why I'm nervous about it, because I've got a new Mac and it's not allowing Zoom to look at that preference. So I'll try another one, another way. This one. No, it's asking for the same thing. So we'll just go with, everybody has that link anyway. So if you can open up that link to my webpage, I can guide you through the process anyway. So I'll just have to tell you when to scroll down, and that will still work. So can everybody see, or can a couple of people let me know that they can see this link with my slides? Yes.
I feel if anyone from the Srishti member will share the screen and will give you a control, then that way also you can.
Great. Okay. Yeah. And so can I move that? Can I guide you through this, or you'll need to just scroll down? There we go. Perfect. So we'll scroll down a little bit further, and what you'll see is there's a link there that everybody will have now. And this is just a 20-minute little movie, because I did foresee that there can be sometimes technical issues. So this is hosted on YouTube, so everyone will be able to see this movie. And this movie introduces the basis for human-centered design, why we do human-centered design, and how it can be used for designers and engineers in interpreting product design challenges and making sure that the product outcome actually is the most suitable thing for the user group that you're working for. The video also covers a series of design methods and design tools, but also looks at how you can also use prototyping to test out your ideas and to gain empathy with your particular user. So it's kind of covering off the entire design process. The way the workshop will run is you'll watch this video just for 20 minutes. And then when you come back, I will guide you through 3 specific design methods tools, or human-centered design tools, that you can use in your project. Now, I realize that you're not at the very beginning of your project, you're kind of partway through your summer school design process, but I think these design methods tools will really help you also to evaluate the design outcome and design challenge that you've done and how far along you are with your design project, and maybe bring some insights to your project that will make your final outcome even stronger. So perhaps everyone can click on the video link just for 20 minutes and then put in the chat when you're back, and we will start the workshop. And I probably, if we have time, I'll ask for some students to turn on their microphone and maybe give us some feedback on what you found out from that small exercise. And we'll just see how time progresses. So go off and watch the movie now, and I will speak to you again in roughly 20 minutes.
My name is Kate Bissett-Johnson. Today's presentation is about human-centred design tools. My teaching and research areas are in human-centred design, sustainable design, and socially responsible design, which really should be design for social good. Really, my primary interests are in designing objects and products for people that are good for people and good for the environment. Today, I'm going to talk about human-centred design, what it is, why we should do it, and then provide some what are called tools, or really methods and strategies, for undertaking projects with a human-centred design framework. It's kind of an overall design process that you can use really fundamentally to match your product outcomes or solutions to your user needs, wants, and desires. So what is human-centred design? Human-centred design is a research framework that looks beyond the limited definition of use and develops requirements to include the whole range of human experience, all its facets and scales. Well, that's a long-winded answer for saying that human-centred design is about designing things that really match what people want. Ideate, which is one of the most famous companies in the US, one of the most important proponents of human-centred design, considers human-centred design to also be described as hearing, creating, and delivering. It's an approach aimed at enhancing the lives of people, helping organisations to better connect with their existing stakeholders while discovering new opportunities for change. The starting point for any human-centred design innovation process involves an exploration of the needs, dreams, and behaviours of the people involved in the solution, whether that be the providers, the final users, and those inadvertently involved. Human-centred design looks at people in their context, within their community, considering the experience of all the actors or stakeholders, and tries to provide a response to their expressed or latent needs. Latent needs are those issues or problems that the user may have, but they may not recognise them as a problem yet. They're also called hidden needs. Ideate has defined human-centred design as being desirable, feasible, and viable. Any of the solutions that go through these three aspects should provide and overlap these three lenses. They need to be desirable, feasible, and viable. Desirable are the wants and needs and wishes of a community or group. Feasible is the technology available. Can it be made at a suitable price? What are the design criteria that a product must meet to be usable, manufacturable, ergonomic, etc.? And viable is whether it can be implemented at a cost that people in that community can afford. So what are the stages of any human-centred design process? Ideate, again, in their design kit methods, say that it is inspiration, ideation, and implementation. So this is talking about the design process as being inspiration about how to better serve and understand people's lives, how to look at their hopes and desires. Ideation is making sense of what you found out in this research phase, in this sort of inspiration phase. What did you hear? How did you generate ideas? How did you identify opportunities for design? How did you test and refine them? And implementation is how to bring an idea to the people that need it. So this is the big picture, things like legal requirements, costs, maintenance, durability. Is the product really suitable for the environment and context? In reality, human-centred design can be really seen about the design process. That's the bit that designers and engineers have control over. So it can involve things like empathizing, learning about the audience for whom you are designing by observation or interview, Who is their user? What matters to them? Defining a point of view and problem. So what is the definition and problem requirements that we need to solve? Brainstorming and being creative and coming up with solutions for this main problem that you've identified. Prototyping, so building a representation of one or more of your ideas to test them out with others and your users, and then really sharing your prototyped idea with your original user. Find out what worked, what didn't, and then redesign, iterate, redesign, iterate, and redesign. There are so many design methods tools that can be used at different times in the design process. Today, I will just pick a few that will be useful in undertaking and interpreting fieldwork. This can be any kind of fieldwork, whether it be primary research, where you've done some interviews directly with your users, or maybe it's secondary research, where you're looking at photographs or videos or research reports that others have written. How do you get to know your user? A large part of any human-centered design approach is about developing the designer's empathy for the user, but we need to understand them. If we look at this diagram, we can see that surface understanding of people is what they say or think. Maybe this might be what we find out from an interview, and this is usually quite explicit knowledge. As we go deeper into knowing our people and our users, we find out what they do and what they use, and we can see this through observations. But to really understand what they deeply know, feel, and dream, what are their tacit or latent needs, so these are these hidden needs, we need to go deeper. And we can use what are called design methods tools as part of a generative design research process. This is where we might get some deeper knowledge about our user other than the obvious solution. But any innovation begins with an I. So the classic example of human-centered design were the designers at Ideate who looked at children brushing their teeth. And they discovered when they did some research through observation, rather than talking to parents who all said their kids needed to brush their teeth really well, they found out that kids held their toothbrush in a different way. So they redesigned the kids' toothbrush to have a large grip, non-slip, and something that you could hold with your entire fist. So this is a classic example of where human-centered design really responds to the user's human's needs. The first stage of any design process, as we're seeing, or a human-centered design process, is about fieldwork and empathize. So whether your fieldwork is, as I said, primarily interview-based, whether it's based on looking at YouTube videos, reading government reports, or academic papers, you really need to understand what is the design challenge that you are facing. If you're going to do interviews, you should develop some interview questions that start broadly and then go in deeper around that design challenge. You should take photos, video, draw maps, list observations. Of course, this is all with the agreement of your user, the person you're interviewing. We need to respect them along the way, and we need to tell them why we're doing this work and what this research data is going to be used for. So let's look at some human-centered design tools at the beginning of the design process. The first set of tools will look at interview data or desk research. So I'm calling this broadly fieldwork. The next set of design methods will be around analysing photographs and videos. The third set are around finding themes in fieldwork and selecting the top 5 and developing a design brief. And the fourth set around storytelling, scenarios, and bringing empathy for the user back to the project. So our first interview method is 5 whys. Ask why questions to 5 consecutive answers. You'll find you'll get really deep into the project. This really gives you an understanding of those perhaps hidden needs, those motivations, those wishes, those dreams, those aspirations of users that you just had no idea were there from pure observation. The next category is a day in the life. So this is where you might ask users to catalogue the activities they do in a day, or you may do this through observation. This is like trying to identify the user's experience through an entire day. What are all the products they interact with? What are all the things they need to do in a normal day? And how could these inform and address your design challenge or help your design challenge along the way? Sometimes we can't do interviews directly, or sometimes we have done a lot of interviews, but we did take some photographs or video. It's worth looking back at these, even if you did go and do the field work, because you can see things in those photographs that you may not have noticed the first time around. So the important way to do a photo analysis is to first of all decide what is in the photo. What subjectively can you see for the video that you're looking at? How is the person doing this particular task? Is it a lot of effort? What are the positives? What are the negatives? And then speculate on why is the person doing the task in this way? Why are those objects around them? How are they using those objects? And you should interpret and speculate about why they're using them in the way they are. And you could guess around what are their motivations and what sort of emotions might be involved in performing this task. The next kind of step is to move into mapping out these ideas. And I can see often students do mind maps quite early in this design process. The team should decide on the 5 top ideas or themes and try and put them into categories. Document this as a mind map with ideas grouped in themes. Then translate these themes in insights into sentences relating to the theme. For example, how might we statements, you've probably heard these before, they're really common. And this is where you describe your challenge and formulate your design brief. So here's an example where a student of mine was looking at the chai tea vendors on train stations in India. And she looked at all the elements that she felt would influence the way the chai tea vendor could actually sell their tea. This is another example of mahua nut collectors in India, and we can see that the student has developed a number of categories around the mahua nut collector's life. He's looked at household goods, community shared goods, plants and equipment that might be about processing the mahua nut, or collectors. The 4 main categories that he might have here and how he might turn these into how might we statements is, first of all, how might we make collecting nuts more efficient or safer? How might we develop equipment to aid in mahua nut collecting? How might we improve the living standards of mahua nut collectors in the community? And how might we develop products that could benefit the whole community and not just individuals? So you can see through the mind map, he's been able to develop a number of project ideas. Taking the mind map further and making it a visual mind map actually extends your problem-solving capabilities. Another design method, once you know what your design challenge might be, is to draft a story in the life of your user that includes your findings from the fieldwork, especially in relation to your selected design challenge or theme or design brief. You should tell the story as if you are the user and include emotion and experiences. Always write these stories in the first person. So I felt, I wanted, I would prefer. Once you finish this story, you can then move to developing a future scenario, a future story. Now tell this story as if you have addressed this design challenge. What will change? How will the user feel and experience a change in their daily life? So let's try some human-centered design, Ideate tools, and some prototype stages of design process. So let's have a look at some of these methods. The first one will be around ideas, choosing 3 different solutions. The second will be around testing ideas with methods such as body storming. The third will be around testing ideas with quick mock-ups. And the third will be about prototyping for feedback. So showing, not telling. I'm sure you already know as designers and engineers that you can be creative. But the interesting thing is to try and look back at the insights and not just to develop any old product solution. Really look at what you found in that human-centered design research in the first phase of the project. Generate as broad a range of ideas from as many viewpoints as you can. One suggestion is that you should try and get to 3 really concrete ideas And these should be one that would delight the user, one that is the rational run-of-the-mill choice, and one which is the most unexpected solution you could have. Generally, when you develop these three different broad directions, you often find that the best solution, the one to move forward with, will be a combination of all three of these solutions. Bodystorming is a really fun way to imagine yourself as a user before you've really committed to making a full prototype. This is where you might act out the interaction with the product using either found objects or rough mock-ups. For example, cardboard prototypes to test how the user might use the product or solution. Testing it out yourself gives you totally new insights to the problem. Prototype and test. This is where you move from verbal to visual. Test the ideas and evaluate against the design brief. Determine what you need to test most, do it yourself, and use quick and dirty prototypes to fail fast and iterate quickly. Again, show, don't tell, and gather feedback and iterate and refine your concept. What is the most important thing you need to test with your prototype? Can it be a looks like prototype, or does it need to be just a works like prototype? Test it yourself and get feedback from your users, and use this content and data to iterate and improve your design outcome. So, some top tips for a human-centered design process. Speak to all sorts of different users to get multiple perspectives on the problem you are solving or what is most important to solve. Listen carefully to feedback for what is said and what is inferred. So this, for example, could be watching users interact with your prototype. What do they find easy? What do they find difficult? What did they not understand very clearly? Prototype early and often in the design process, and test your prototypes with users and use their feedback to improve the solution. Be prepared to redesign, redesign, and redesign. And don't forget to consider the motivations and barriers to implementing your design idea. In conclusion, human-centered design is an approach intended to result in products and solutions that are highly suited to the user in context. There are many different human-centered design tools, so choose the ones that work for your project and allow you to understand users on many levels. So moving from surface understanding to a deep understanding of your user. Here is a list of references that I've used in this presentation. You can find them quite generally online, and most of them are specifically around human-centered design tools. And if you're interested to learn more about human-centered design and the design process in general, I have a series of YouTube videos called The Design Process Explained that you can find here. This has been Kate Bissett Johnson from Swinburne University. Thank you for listening.
Hello, I'm back. Is everybody back?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Fantastic. So I'm going to try, and I'm not sure if I'm able to control this screen, but it says I can control the screen. So we'll have a little try. If I can scroll down a little bit, I'll just, now I think I can scroll down if it's not too slow. It's not working. Ah, yes, here we go. I guess the data's got to go from India back to Australia and all the way back to you. So here we have our workshop plan. Today we're going to focus on 3 human-centered design tools or methods, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of fun along the way with this. So the first method we're going to look at is the 5 whys. And the 5 whys is a really simple exercise that I imagine most people are sitting at home or in their office. So you can do this with a colleague or a friend, or you can phone a friend and do it offline. So we're going to do a little exercise about understanding how to get deeper knowledge about your users. So this exercise is called 5 whys. So what you're going to do, we've gone up too far. There's a bit of a lag here. Here we go. So you're going to ask somebody, can be somebody in your house, it can be a colleague that you might text over the phone, though it's better to actually phone someone if you can and talk to them. Ask them first what's their favorite color. And then you'll ask, why is that their favorite color? And when they answer you, you'll ask why again. And when they answer you, you ask why again. So you ask why 5 times. So let's just spend 5 minutes doing this exercise. And when we come back, I'd like maybe 1 or 2 people who would like to share their experience and what maybe they found out something interesting about somebody in their household or one of their colleagues. So just 5 minutes, or it might not even take that, but 5 minutes to ask somebody about their favorite color, and then to ask why 5 times after they've given you subsequent answers. And then I'll ask one of the Shusti team to nominate somebody to give us their opinion and answer and what they found out. Okay, I'm back. That's about 5 minutes. So perhaps someone from the Shristi team could nominate a student who'd like to share their findings from this little exercise. There's no wrong answer. Is that Amit? Amit, you have your microphone on.
Yeah, can I answer?
Yes, that would be
yes.
lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, I asked, what is your favorite color? And the reply given was light pink.
Yes.
Then I asked why. The answer was gives cool effect to eyes. Then I asked again why. So answer was liking.
Yes.
Then again I asked why. Then answer was it gives good look.
Yes.
Then the next why answer was it suits all.
Yes.
And then next why it's a matching and not irritating.
Yes.
These are the 5 answers. But in
Yeah,
between,
that
in between, the answer giver is sometimes hesitant when we continuously ask 5 times why. So that may be one
of
of the issues.
course. I think you have to have a little bit of patience.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
think, Amit, what your answer shows us is that you have found out a whole lot more about why this person likes light pink. It's not just they like the color, they like it for a variety of reasons. It suits lots of people, it's very soft, it brings them a lot of happiness. So you found out a whole lot of information rather than, oh, they just like that color. Now you could use that information if you were doing a project, where color was very important. You could use that information to connect with the emotions of that particular user.
Right.
So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think what this project, this little exercise, which is very simple, but it shows you how asking why allows you to go in more depth in understanding more about your user, more about that deep sort of knowledge about your user. And I guess you can ask the same questions to your project in a kind of abstract way so that you are learning more about your project and what's important to your user about your project. So is there somebody else who'd like to share their findings quickly from this?
Yes.
Christy, would you like to share someone?
Yes. Yes, madam. My name is Prabhu Dattare. Hello.
Yes, go ahead. Hello, nice to hear from you.
Yes, madam. When I asking for the color, they are saying light green, and the reasons when asking them, they say first thing is it is energetic. Number 2, it is giving some soothing effect when we see this color for sleeping and any other purpose. Number 3, it is always give me some message in life to always think green to get better chances. Number 4, when I asking that why, he saying this color always feeling some natural effect in the areas when I see the greens in every sides. So it is always giving some betterment. And last time asking why, he is saying this giving in your future directions, that when what you do in future, your life is very short period of time, and if you getting energetic, you do some lot of work. These 5 answer I get from that, ma'am.
Well, that's amazing, because did you expect to get that kind of knowledge about the energy and the message in life? Did you expect to get that kind of answer?
Yes.
You did. Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's really interesting. Again, it shows, like Emil's answer, it shows us that there's a lot of depth and emotion in people's decision making and their preferences in what they like, because saying that green offers a message in life, it gives you energy, it reminds you of nature, and it makes you think about the future, and those sorts of things is far more interesting for you as a designer and an engineer to use than just saying, oh, I'm going to make this product a particular color. So I think you've discovered something really interesting about the emotive nature of why people have preferences about what they like and maybe what they dislike. And those preferences are not just liking something, there can be a whole lot of knowledge and emotion underneath those preferences. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll scroll down. There's a little delay, but I should be able to go down to the next part. Aha. So I am assuming that most people have started their design challenge and that maybe you have a photograph of your particular community that you're working with and something to do with your design challenge. Is that correct, Shristi team?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. So what I'd like the students to do now is to choose one of these photographs and to have a look at, firstly, what is happening in the photograph. Secondly, how you think the person is doing that activity in photograph, whatever they are doing. And then I'd like you to speculate on why you think they're doing that particular action in that photograph. So I'll allow people, I think, 10 minutes to do this process, because I think it doesn't need to be an in-depth analysis. The objective of this process of what, how, and why is to get you to look at the fieldwork and the resources that you already have about your project and to start to think about them from the perspective of the user. So starting to understand why the user is motivated to do something in the way they're doing that in that photograph. So everybody's project will be slightly different. Everybody's photograph might be slightly different. The other part that would be great with this process and this little project was if you can ask somebody who might be in the space with you, and if not, that's okay, but to try and discuss the why somebody is doing something in the photo and to sort of get multiple opinions on that part of the process. Now, if you don't have anybody at home with you or in your office with you, that's fine. But if you do have somebody that you could show this photo to and start to get some different viewpoints about why you think the person in the photo is doing things in a particular way, that will be really helpful for this exercise. So photos and videos and even YouTube can tell us a lot about the user, especially if you did not interview them directly, which working remotely can make that quite challenging. And my students in Australia, we can't travel to India at the moment. And over the past few years, we've tried to get as many first-hand opinions on fieldwork as we can, but we also use what's called secondary research. So we're using the amazing YouTube videos, interviews and fieldwork, government reports, these sorts of things, and photographs. And looking into photographs, whether we've been on the fieldwork or not, can tell us a lot about that way that people are working in their space and the problems that they are facing, particularly about our design challenge. So I'll give you sort of 10 minutes to work on what is happening in the photo, how the person might be doing something in the photo, and if you have time, to discuss very briefly with another person why you think that person in the photo is doing things the way they are. And then maybe the next process, we might have someone who can share a photo. If that's not possible, we can still move to the next part of the workshop. So Yeah, roughly 10 minutes to do this little exercise of photo analysis. I'll scroll back up to that slide. I'm getting the hang of this now. Great. There we go. So the what, the how, and some discussion with somebody or speculation around why something is happening in the photo that you have from your field work or your design challenge. Okay, I'm back. Perhaps, Christy, is there somebody who would like to, they could share their photo in the chat, or they could just talk about their findings from their photo relating to their design challenge. Christy, could you choose someone, the team there, please?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Sure. Yeah, so anyone like Payal or Narottam, anyone? If you wanted to share the photo, please share in the chat box, or you can just let us know the details.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Rajkus, if you can share your image. Hello, Rajkus.
Yeah, I'm sharing that.
Yes, yes.
Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, this is the problem faced majorly in the run of Kutch. The women don't have a proper sanitation facility. They definitely face a lot of problems because of lack of proper infrastructure of toilets, etc.
Yes.
Rajku, photo is visible on screen.
Yes.
Yes.
And anyone from the team can add further if they want to describe this image.
Rajkosh, please share your screen again because it's not visible, I guess.
I can see it, but maybe.
Wait.
It's
I'm
not visible to us.
Can you share the link? Oh, it's a WhatsApp. It's a WhatsApp photo,
okay.
right?
No,
Okay.
I will share the link. No issues.
Yeah.
Actually, two screens are open right now, so we have to change the screen. Shared, please, everyone change to share the screen as Rajkosh Kumar's screen.
Yep.
Okay. So, Rajkosh, you want to continue?
Where you can take over.
Okay. So, Kate, we are trying to push forward like the issue in Run of Kutch, which is in a small area, or not, I should say, large area of Gujarat region,
Yes,
where
is this the salt plains?
I didn't get to. Can you repeat it?
Oh, is this where the salt?
Yeah, it's
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes. So there are women also working there, and they face lots of problems related to the sanitations. So they get lots of health issues. Also, they have lots of problem in doing the sanitary facilities. These are some of the photos which we have got from the old documents, and we find like there are people who are going for open defecation, which is has multiple issues with their health also, and also with the like living standards and all many other things. So we are trying forward to solve this issue by designing a low cost sanitation system. We are not focusing on totally on toilet right now. We are thinking something out of the box and trying to get something new. And if possible, we will, if possible, ultimately, if we ended up this toilet also, that's not a big deal, but we are trying to think out of the box, just how we can solve this issue. And our main concern, our main target audience will be the woman, because if the woman's problem is sorted out and the rest of the audience itself is really sorted out. So we're considering this part. And also women have multiple other issues also, like menstrual cycle and all this things, and which we need to be taken into care. So we are trying a lot to figure it out, what all problems they have and what all technologies we can put together and combine them. We're not jumping into solution till now, but we are still figuring out all the possible issues with our documents and with the conversation with our teammates.
Yes.
That's all from me. Thank you.
So that's a great example of your human-centered design, because what the women need, want, and desire, will be quite different maybe to what the men desire. And also there would be some taboo issues around women's health that may not be very open to discuss, but they are incredibly important to be considered. So in terms of our analysis, what we can see in this photograph is that these women are walking together. So does that mean that, I'm speculating now, but do you think this means that the women always are going together to use, for this toileting process, or do they go separately? Do they go together for safety, or do they go together because this is the time of day when you can go?
No,
This is the time when you can go.
The two things which I have a problem with, especially with the women with open defecation, is their safety. One of that.
Yes.
And second, they cannot maximum time. If you notice, they will go for the open defecations, especially in the duration of morning, like in the early morning, or after the sun sets. So that's also a time duration where you can say it's like most of the crimes take place. So it's also one of the reasons they go in groups, and they so that they feel a little safer there. So that's one of the reasons. And the best part, you need to also Rajkush, can you switch to that photo again? You need to see that they are carrying just a small tumbler sort of thing. It's a jug basically, and it contains that much of water, and they are like walking from like around 1 kilometer or around 500 meters away just to use that much water. They have to clean their fecal and all these things. So there's also in a region like they have a limited sort of resources to perform their whole task.
Yes. Well, this is a great challenge. So I think you have answered quite a bit about what. You've answered quite a bit about how, because you've talked about, taking a small portion of water, going in a group for safety, and also the limitations of why. So you've also speculated on why, which partly is from your research of saying, well, this is the crime is higher after dark or very early in the morning. So that's why people have to go in a group. So I think that I can see that there's a lot of richness coming into your project about understanding the constraints. And I think you're very right in not just saying a toilet is the solution, because there may be other things to do with water and sanitation and even privacy that will be related to that, not just a toilet in the middle of the salt pan. So they're quite, it's quite a complex challenge. And I think this is a really commendable project. Very challenging. I think the other thing is the environment. So the salt pans are a very harsh environment, aren't they, as well? So that makes for added difficulty in creating the privacy for toileting, because there isn't often, well, in this photograph, there's a lot of dried sticks and things like that, but other photographs I've seen of this area is quite arid, and the communities have to take everything with them on a seasonal basis. They take all their building materials and all of those things. So it's a very interesting project. Thank you for sharing. Is there anything else in the why aspect that perhaps you've had multiple viewpoints on? I mean, it sounds like you're working as a team anyway.
Again, definitely one more why is most of the salt production of India comes from this particular region. And we are eating our food daily and all, but we are not concerned about how these people are living. Every day, we buy a packet of salt like at 20 rupees. And if we can do something to improve their lives, because most of the Indian cuisines are based on salt. So this is also a very big why that we should work upon this project.
I think the other part of the why, which can kind of work in with your project too, is that once the women have a better life, in the future, and we've got around some of these sanitation issues, is that the women have the opportunity to influence the children and their health and their habits and their upbringing. So it can make a real pivot to the community by working with the women, who then have a lot of influence over the children. But I think you're right that the communities on the salt pans work incredibly hard and have from what I have read about and what I have seen a lot of video footage is they have incredibly hard lives in terms of health and absorption of salt and all of these things. And even educating children is difficult because of the huge distances people have to travel during that season. So great project. And I'd love to see the final outcome down the track.
Can I make
Thank
one
you.
point? Can I make
Yes.
one point?
Yes.
Yeah, from this photograph, if we analyze, it is clear that it is not desert region.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is greenery, full of greenery. So how this water problem should be there?
Amit, we are just trying to show the problem. Actually, it's not the exact photo of that region. We are just trying to put forward what was the issue, which because Kat said like she wants to see the photos, so we bought some photos which can show exactly what's the problem we are facing. So it's not the green area.
No. Our point is to learn to analyze photograph, right? Don't put background information, whatever you studied this. Only from photograph, we have to analyze where we have to find solution. So from this, I don't see any water shortage in the area. Lot of greenery is there. So it is not like a run of Kutch or
Rajkosh,
like
can you switch the photos?
Yeah, I can.
No. We don't want to say you are correct or not. That is my point of view. Our learning is to learn to analyze photo, right?
Okay.
So that is the point. Otherwise, it is okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think too, when we are working remotely, sometimes we have to use I imagine you haven't been able to go to the Run of Kutch?
No, ma'am.
No,
That's the basic problem.
It's a problem. You know, there is a great video called My Name is Salt.
Okay.
And if I can find the link, I'll send it to Shristi, because it's a documentary that some filmmakers made about this particular community, and it gives you quite a lot of insights to a day in the life of these people. So yeah, anyway, that's beside the point. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I'll look forward to that video and let you know what we got in the final. Thank you.
I'll look it up and I'll send it to the Srishti team to share with you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ma'am, can I share my screen? I have
Yes,
one
we can. Yeah, we can do another one.
Okay, thanks.
How are we going for time? We're still fine. This is good.
Can you see the photo?
Not yet. Yes, I can. The rubbish.
Yeah, it's the COVID waste, which is generated from multiple hospitals, and it's a.
Madam, we are unable to see any photographs in the screen.
You can change the screen. Like you can like I think you are still viewing you are still looking at the Srishti ka screen. So
Her screen from view.
Madam screen, you can see only Madam screen.
Go to view option at the very top.
Hello.
From view options, select her screen. Click on view options, then there will be a dropout.
Yeah. Venu ma'am, can you stop sharing for a few?
Oh yes, yes. I think. Oh yes, stop my sharing. Stop.
No, not yours, ma'am. Venu ma'am, the Srishti person.
Now I can see.
Now I can see also.
Yeah,
Okay,
everyone can see that.
Okay, good. So this is a photo which we took from internet, as we do not have we cannot go outside our houses right now.
I'm the same. I can't go outside my house either. So
yeah.
I know.
So what we did is we first analyzed this photo. What we can see in this photo is we have these red bags. Can you see the cursor?
Yes.
So we have these red bags which contain syringes, plastic waste, which is not degradable. Okay. Then we have these yellow bags which contains cotton, used swabs and all. So these may be degradable, may be biodegradable. There is this glove which is thrown like that only without any protection. There is this cup which holds maybe urine or something. So it is also not included in this into a bag or anything. So it is exposed. There is this thermocol waste, which is generally like some general waste, and it shouldn't be thrown like that. It should be processed into domestic waste section. there's this person who isn't he's not wearing any PPE set. We cannot see his face, so we don't know about whether he's wearing a mask or not. But he's exposed to this waste, and he's standing quite close to that place. So if there is any cuts or anything in these bags, he might be exposed to the virus. There is this lady. We can know it's a lady because she is wearing a skirt, and she's also standing very close to the waist. So this is what we understood from this photo.
Mm.
And by looking at it, we can assume that it's dumped in the backyard of a household, which is not a very good idea because we can see many things which is related to household. So I think that's also a very important point.
Yeah, and this is getting mixed into the domestic waste, and there might be a possibility that the COVID waste is being treated in the same way as the domestic waste, which is uh, very wrong because it has to be processed differently. It has to be stored like away for 72 hours or something, but it is not getting so because it is getting mixed with the normal waste. This is one point. Then another point which we thought to look upon is you can see some yellow bags, and the red bags are kept on the yellow bags. So we thought of the process ki why this might be happening. So we came up with two ideas. It might be that this bag, the small bag, is having cuts or something. So to avoid the waste to get out of that bag, they have kept it on the yellow bag. This might be one reason. The second reason might be due to wind. The yellow bags get blown away. So to avoid that, they have kept the waste on that. So this is what we did for speculation.
Yes.
So is the thinking correct?
Yes. And do you know what? There's some writing on those yellow bags. Have you been able to read what that says?
Oh, so it says that it is a biomedical waste. So like it's a hazard or something.
Oh gosh. So that's a really tricky thing. I think you've done really well in analyzing the photo and seeing that it's just a backyard. And I think I like your thinking here about the service aspect. So the collection of the rubbish. So not just the rubbish itself, but also the fact that somebody has to come and collect this as part of a service, the garbage collection. And I also think that it's interesting that there's the two colors, so they probably do mean something. And then the sort of looking at the guy there that has the folder of paper, we can assume that maybe he's documenting the amount of rubbish, but it looks as though there's also just rubbish in the cardboard box there. And I think that, you could work backwards from this COVID rubbish outside the place, and you could kind of speculate that the reason it might be here is because inside the hospital, they don't have a way to separate this waste. So that maybe we don't know, but we might need to make an assumption because we can't go to the hospital and actually interview the nurses and doctors. But you could maybe make an assumption that the waste, upstream from this photograph needs to be sorted in a better way. And then downstream from this photograph, what can happen with this bio waste? What's safe for the person collecting it? What's safe for the rubbish tip that it ends up in? Or is there a different way of getting rid of this waste that is either on location? I don't know. Or can it be treated in some way? I think you mentioned the time frame, and I thought I have heard this as well. I'm not going to. The 72 hours thing is something that I have heard as well.
Yeah, the WHO protocol asks us to separate the waste for 72 hours just for safety and all.
But then what happens to things like the glove and the plastic container and those things that they won't break down in the landfill? So what then happens to all of those items? They just end up in the big rubbish dump, right?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. They end up there, and ultimately they end up in some dumping places or in the oceans, which again makes very hazardous impacts.
Yeah. So
I
either they can throw the waste into these yellow bags, or if they do not get these yellow bags, they just throw it into normal waste, like normal
yeah
household waste, and which
yeah
generally ends up like burning, or
yes
might be in some ocean or something, which again come back on the land, and there might be a big risk of spread of virus again, like a big something that I cannot, like, I shouldn't say things like that, but it might be happen that like many of the coastal areas may get affected because of this.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. So I think that this project kind of almost needs a systems approach, doesn't it? Because
Yeah,
the either we can't reuse the PPE, that isn't an option.
yeah,
But we can actually separate maybe the waste within the hospital. But because the hospital is so under pressure that they
yeah,
probably they probably don't have time or the effort, because it is such an emergency situation. So this is an incredible challenge, this project.
yes, it is. So we are
But you
trying
can,
to, yeah,
yeah, but you can see from just the photograph by asking some questions about, well, what do the different colors mean in the bags? Why are the different items not separated? And how this might have happened actually helps you come up with looking at the problem from lots of different perspectives, because you can look at the hospital end of it, or you can look at where does the rubbish go after this point in time
yeah.
as well. So it's giving you a few options on how to treat that design challenge. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now I need to go back to sharing my screen. I think I need to click on something there. Aha, back. Excellent. And I think I need to just go down to options. Oh yeah. Request. Here we are.
Ma'am, can
Right.
I ask you something?
Yes.
Ma'am, earlier when we talked about that salt problem, problem about the salt workers.
Yes.
So the thing is that more we are getting in depth about their problems, we are working for their sanitation, but there are a lot of other problems. So it's really hard to keep our mind fixed on this specific problem of sanitation. So when we are doing research, is it required to look about those other factors, like when they work in open, so the ground is salty, so this has a very harsh effect on their legs. So these are kind of other aspects which is not related to sanitation, the toilet problem we are trying to solve. So do we need to research about those other aspects?
I think there's two things to consider here. One is that your summer school is quite short. Yes, so you can't address every problem that there is. And I think that it is good to focus on the sanitation is a huge problem that has lots of implications for things like health, longevity, etc. So I think that the sanitation, and it is one of the global sustainable design goals that we have. So I think that's a really good problem. It's easy to get distracted,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
in a sense, with these other projects. And I think that the Shristi team can really guide you on that. But if you have chosen the sanitation as your main problem, then I think a focused investigation and deep into that main problem will end up that at the end of the summer school, you have a really good project, because you will have focused your energy on testing out that project, looking at different creative ways to solve that one problem. I think when you're doing this kind of field work, it's really easy to become overwhelmed with the number of problems and wanting to help the community in many different ways. And I think that's a very human thing that we all want to do. But I think in your situation, you need to focus on, if your design challenge is framed around sanitation, then try and keep your focus coming back to that particular design challenge.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we might move to the last part of our workshop. And I'm probably going to make this a bit easier for all of you. And I'm going to move down to storytelling with empathy. So normally in the workshop, I would ask you to write a story about the current situation or the design challenge. But from hearing about your photo analysis, I think that everybody has a good understanding of what their design challenge is about. So the two teams I've heard from. So I think what would be an even better challenge would be to write a story, and this can just be one paragraph, about the scenario that you saw in the photo. Imagine you have solved your design challenge. Imagine you can pitch this as 10 years in the future if you want to, or it could be next year, some point in the future where you've solved your design challenge, and write a short story about your particular user group. So whether this is the women in the salt pans and their life, or whether this is about somebody in the hospital treating COVID and the waste, or whether it's about the waste collector, or whether it's about the people living in the street next to the hospital. Some sort of user group that you write about, and you tell the story as if you have addressed this design challenge. You've designed a solution that's working really well. How does your user feel about this solution compared to maybe where they were previously when the photo was taken? How do they feel about, and how have they seen a change in their particular life? So the idea of this storytelling method is to help you identify what are the most important human aspects of your design solution that you need to have, and what will it be like for your end user when you've solved this design challenge? So normally we would do this process in two stages. We'd write about the current project and design challenge and how the problems the user is having. And in the second part of the storytelling, we write about the future. Given we haven't got a lot of time, and given that I think you already have a good understanding of the current design challenge, let's write a short story about the future scenario. Imagine that your design challenge is being implemented, that it's working really well, and how does your particular user, just choose one user that you write from the personal perspective. So you write it in the first person. So I saw, I said, I felt, those kinds of statements. And write is really, it can just be a paragraph. It doesn't need to be a full long essay, just a paragraph that you're imagining yourself as the user and the design challenge has been solved really successfully. How does that user feel? So I think we can do that in 10 minutes or so. And then we might just get one person to share if we have time to do that, although maybe it's almost probably cup of tea time for you. But I think with just 10 minutes to imagine yourself as the user, to be walking in their shoes, and the design challenge has been solved. I'll put it in the chat as well. I'll scroll down a little bit. There we go. So yeah, write the story as if you solved the challenge. This way you get some empathy with your user, and you're now seeing the design challenge from the perspective of the user, not just the perspective of the designer or the engineer who's solving something. You actually start to feel more of what the user might feel. So just a paragraph. It doesn't need to be a long-winded story. And if we have time, we'll share one or two of those. So about 10 minutes.
Ma'am, actually we haven't yet thought about how we are going to solve this problem. So it is still in process.
This could be the creative part of the storytelling, Richa. So while you kind of imagine how you might have solved the problem, so that's the creative engineer and designer coming out in you. So it doesn't mean that this will be your solution at the end, but I think that your objectives are great. And I think the things that I would draw, that I get from this story, is the thing that it's calm because things are cleaner. And I think having systems that help things, help people to sort things so that their work processes are really easy is a really good objective, and that might be influential for your project. I think the other thing that really is that you can have as design criteria in your design challenge is not only is it cleaner, but the fact that the rubbish is contained, and also that people don't need to strain their bodies by lifting really heavy weights. So I think these are things that then can become design criteria when you're designing your final solution. So even though you haven't said exactly what the solution is, when I look at your story, I can draw out there can be just some design performance criteria in this particular story. So well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone else who'd like to share their short story just before we wrap up? I think we're nearly out of time, aren't we, Shristi? Team.
Yes, ma'am, but you can take a few more minutes.
Lovely. These projects are fantastic. It's great to hear about them. I could go all day, but I won't. Is there another person who'd like to just paste their story perhaps in the chat or to read something out?
Can I speak, madam?
Yes, Amit.
Yeah, this is about quitting the smoking.
Yes.
So the story is like this. Gulabo left smoking before 5 years. She could give up smoking with her strong will and support of the newly developed system and support of community, family, and well wishes. Now she feels herself wealthier, healthier. She could save money and remains fresh. She is also sharing her experience to others and help them to quit smoking by using the new system. With saved money, she bought ornaments which she likes. She is happier with family. The quarrels with neighbors, with other villagers also reduced, and she has more support from others. She also ensured that no one in family consumes tobacco, and specifically children. So this is the story, madam.
I think, Amit, there's some really fantastic points in that story. Firstly, the sense of support for somebody to give up smoking. And what you're almost designing there is there's an education process so that the person knows about that they should not smoke. And also the other thing that you said, that there was an incentive. So pointing out to the smoker that if they don't smoke, they have money to make their house really beautiful and to spend on things that they might desire other than smoking. But I think the key thing that comes out in your story is the sense of community and the sense that this person has stopped smoking and therefore can tell other people in that community the health impacts of smoking. So I think there's a lot to draw out of that storytelling process, and you've done that really well. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we could have time for one more because they're very short stories. Is there one other person?
Hello.
Yes.
I'm Rupali here. So I'm yet to create my story, but I'm curious and I would like to ask you that From this activity, what is the exact purpose, or how it's going to help to connect? Can you elaborate it more? Because basically, I'll give you a short idea that currently I have selected a topic like at source segregation of domestic waste for my
Yes.
project. So the context behind this is like in India, segregation is not well equipped in any parts, like even in urban and rurals, we still face a problem to segregate our waste, as it is a very basic need to manage your waste. So we still struggle in India for segregation, and so I'm trying to work on that. So how to make this process easier, and to find some solutions where even a common people can find it easy to segregate their waste by themselves. So I have took this like with this activity, I tried to imagine if I have, I have proposed a idea or a solution for this problem. So what, like there were few more questions which raised to me further this. So that's why I'm curious to know from you, is it if I'm having further more questions, so is it okay, or it should be a more of gratification attitude after solving the problem? So can you elaborate more on this?
Okay, so your audio was a little bit hard to hear at some point. So what you're doing, I'll just recap. So just to make sure I have it right. So you're looking at waste, the separation of waste in the home. Yeah. So domestic waste and how you might separate that waste and how you might use a storytelling process to help you solve that problem, right? That's your question. So I think you could tell the story of, okay, even I've taken the milk out of the fridge and, you know, I've got an empty container. Where do I put that container now to make sure that the plastic goes in the plastic stream?
Yes, exactly. I got the more questions I raised, like nowadays we are having products which are mixed of material, like we use plastic with various metal materials to strengthen. Just a second.
Yes, I think that.
Yeah, sorry, there is some noise beside my end. So with this, so the next question I got, which made me more curious. So that this is a global issue that, or a global solution for our product designing, that we like design products with multi materials to make it more viable. But is it at some point, is it creating an issue when it comes to waste management, or can there be solutions for this context? So am I going on a right path while doing this activity? That's what I wanted to know.
Right. So I think there's multiple questions here, Rupali. So one is that I think there is a problem in packaging where you are correct that often it is multiple materials. So things like a Tetra Pak, where they might have foil and plastic joined together. So this might be for stock or milk or long life fluids. This is a problem because you can't separate those materials because they're designed poorly for recycling. So in terms of your problem, a little bit like the hospital waste problem, there's the front end problem to your design challenge, which is the packaging itself, for example. And then there's the downstream problem to your challenge, which is the sorting of the waste, if it is going to be recycled, and the labeling of the waste and the separation of materials. And you're correct that this is a global problem. So even in a country like Australia, where we have some recycling, I think in Australia we only recycle maybe 5 different plastics. So even if the domestic person has a recycle bin at the front of their house and they put all their plastic materials in it, not all of those materials will end up in the recycle stream. Quite a lot do end up in landfill. So this is a huge problem. And what you need to decide as the designer and engineer is which part of the problem can you make an improvement on? You probably can't solve this problem perfectly in one thing, because the other aspect you need to bring in is the people in the household and changing their behavior to actually change where they put their waste, or also change their buying habits and what waste are they, or packaging, for example, are they bringing into the house. So I think that you need to choose, in terms of mapping out your design challenge for something like waste, there's the front end of where the waste in terms of packaging comes into the house. There's the middle part of the problem or the process where the user has to decide, once they've consumed the food, for example, where to put the packaging. And then there's the kind of tail end of the process. If you wanted to think of it as a flow diagram, the last part of the process, which is where the waste is collected and is it sorted or is it not sorted to be either recycled or burnt or ending up in landfill. So I think as designers and engineers, we want to solve the problem completely, but this is a big system type problem. It's not just about either the rubbish bin that you design or the system of collection that you design, but it also involves the packaging, and then that might also have to do with the factory that puts the food into the package. It might also have to do with the shipping and transport of the food in the package, how that stacks up, and then it might have to do with how it's put in the store. So there's a whole lot of issues there within packaging as an example. I'm not saying packaging is just what you would be dealing with, but your design challenge could be at any point in that complex system, and you could make an improvement to that situation.
Yeah, exactly. So for this project timeline, basically I am focusing on, because in India, most of the neighborhoods, like they don't feel it responsible to segregate even the domestic waste, which is again, creates a lot of pressure on the recycling communities or the government who is trying to deal that waste. So again, it creates a lot of pressure there, and even if we have a solution to segregate at least one end, it somewhat creates complexity. So I'm trying to at least focus on that aspect for now. So can you give can I ask you few more of your insights, like how I can go with this, or any of your suggestions that how I can progress into this? So yeah.
So I think there's a lot of barriers to making change with your project, isn't there? Because there's the government systems of collection of waste, there's the changing of the user within the household and their buying habits. So what are they purchasing? Do they have a choice? I know sometimes in the shops in Australia, I don't have a lot of choice about the food that I might be buying in terms of the packaging, or whether that packaging is recyclable, or whether I can separate the different materials. So I think that this project is a real challenge, but I think to move forward in a short time frame, such as your summer school, you need to choose just one aspect that you think you could make an improvement in. And part of that aspect might be in the users buying, their purchasing habits, or part of that challenge might be in the separation of the materials. So you design the package itself to be able to be separated, so the materials could be recycled if the government changed the system of waste collection, or if a community got together and decided that they wanted to make a change to their waste collection process. So I know in Australia we have some community places where you can do composting. So I can take my kitchen waste to particular park that's a public park, and they have a composting system there that's a kind of shared community thing. So there might be things on a small scale where you could make a proposal to make a change that might be around partly educating your community or your users or your families about what they're purchasing and where their waste is going. And then the second part might be a proposal about how you separate those different materials. But it's a really hard project because it also has a financial aspect, because in terms of recycling, the people that do that recycling need to be able to make money from that process as well. So even though this might be the optimal environmental outcome to recycle lots of plastic, I actually saw a documentary the other day, and I can't remember the exact volume, but I think of all the plastics made in the world to date, I think it's sort of was maybe only between 10 and 20% of all the plastic made in the world is recycled. So at the moment, this is a huge problem, and I think it's a fantastic one to work on. So you could just work on one type of plastic that could be easy for the family person to recognize and to recycle it. So you could start small and then work up to the bigger aspects. So you won't be able to solve all of this. And this probably comes back to the question that all of you are working on, just to sort of wrap up, I guess, is that it's really hard. These problems are very, very complicated. All of these problems that you're working with different communities, they're very, very challenging and very, very complicated. But sometimes just making a small change will make a huge impact on the user. And even though the problem may not be 100% solved, you've actually worked towards improving the life of that community and those users. So that's the key thing to take away from the summer school and from the process. And again, it's good to do solve part of the problem and solve it in really good detail and solve it really well, than trying to look at a huge, really complex problem that you can't solve in a really short time frame. So hopefully, Rupali, that helps a little bit with your project.
Yeah, exactly. Because the third activity which we started into, so it gave me more insight and it helped me to go more deeper to understand the bigger picture. So yeah, that helped me a lot. And I'll iterate these 3 activities more often so that I will be able to decide what exactly I want to do with this problem solution. Yeah.
Well, I like to hear that. So so the video, you can find my video on YouTube if you want to watch again or know a little bit more about those tools.
Yeah, I have watched it before, and I will definitely, I have prepared the notes also, so it will help me throughout my process. So yeah, I'll rewatch again whenever it is required. Yes.
Fantastic to hear that. So I guess we have run out of time. We've gone over time, and it's probably heading to your lunch break. But I'll just wrap up by saying, I think what we've seen today is that human-centered design, there's plenty of tools that you can use, but what it does, it gives you a deeper understanding of how your user might be challenged, or how they might even benefit from your product outcomes. So it's offering you more than just those physical normal design parameters that we know about. What it's showing you is there might be deeper emotional connections, or there might be psychological reasons or the cultural reasons that people may not take up your product, or things that you might not know about or have thought about. So taking this human-centered approach should mean that the product or solution you design is really suitable for the community that you're designing it for. The final thing to take away from this is that human-centered design has the 3 pillars. So something that makes it desirable, so the outcome really suits the wants and the needs of the user. That the outcome should be feasible, so that we use the right technology, we use reliable technology, we design it so it's easy to make and easy to use. and that the final outcome should be viable. So it should be implemented in a way that the community group can engage with it really easily, that they can afford to use it, that they can understand how to use it, and it actually is going to improve their lives. So I want to wish you all good luck with your summer school projects. I always have a look at the final reports and have looked at them actually in recent days, been looking back at the projects from back as far as 2013, 2014, 2015. And I look forward to seeing your final outcomes through those reports on the Shrishti website. So thank you for spending the time with me while you're all online. It's a lot different to seeing you over the internet in a big classroom, but thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed our session.
Thanks to you. We are really grateful to have you here and to
Thank
deep
you.
dive
Thank
more.
you.
Yeah.
Kate, very nice for the great interaction as always. You have been kind with your time today.
Oh, thank you.
I hope everything else is all right with you and your department and your family.
Oh, yes. We are in lockdown in Melbourne for a little while longer, but for COVID reasons, but it's fine. I'm getting much better at this online teaching.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We hope to have you back someday. We have to
I so want to be in India and travel, and my memories, I have very fond memories of being at the 2015 summer school, where the energy of the students is amazing and their motivation and their problem solving. So I wish everyone the best with this project. The projects sound very, very interesting.
Thank you. We will keep you posted with what they do. And if you have time on 16th of June, then we will request you back.
Oh, yes. Send me the link and we'll see how we go. I'll check in my diary. I would love to see you. Thank you, Anil. Stay safe and stay well, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.